I would have never hurt my baby, and I did not kill Evelyn.
A mother convicted of murdering her young daughter is defiant until the very end and refuses to take responsibility for the murder at her sentencing.
I would just like to say that the state of Tennessee treated me very unfair during this whole investigation, and had I had a fair trial and an impartial jury, I would have been acquitted of the murder charges.
I take you through the sentencing of Megan Boswell for the murder of baby Evelyn. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. 24-year-old Megan Boswell will never be released from prison. 5 years after the murder of her daughter Evelyn, Megan Boswell has learned her punishment for killing her daughter in February of 2020. Boswell was sentenced to life in prison plus 33 years for all 20 counts that she faced, including abuse of a corpse for placing Evelyn's body into a trash can in a playhouse on property that was owned by her father, Tommy Boswell. Stay tuned for the moment when Judge Goodwin handed down the sentence in court. The disappearance of Evelyn Boswell and later her murder was a case that absolutely stunned the community, and it gained national attention after an Amber Alert was issued by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Sullivan County deputies, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and the FBI all teamed up for a massive search for 15-month-old Evelyn in February of 2020. But Evelyn hadn't been seen for nearly 2 months. It became apparent almost immediately that Megan Boswell couldn't keep her story straight about where her daughter was and the last time she had seen her. The following month, in March of 2020, Megan Boswell was charged with false reporting, and little Evelyn's body was found in a trash can in a playhouse on her dad's property. In the week-long trial, jurors actually got to see drone footage of that playhouse, as Tommy Boswell testified. He told jurors that he saw Megan at Christmas time in December of 2019, and Evelyn wasn't with her. It was actually Tommy Boswell's call to authorities that launched the missing persons search for Evelyn. The jurors deliberated for just 4.5 hours before returning its verdicts.
In count 2, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of first-degree murder and the perpetration of a felony, it's a judgment of this court you are guilty. In count 3, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of first-degree murder and the perpetration of a felony, it's a judgment of this court you are guilty. In count 4, a judgment of your peers having found you guilty of aggravated child abuse, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty.
Now, following the verdict, her lawyers asked that Megan Boswell one day be eligible for parole.
Ladies and gentlemen, although I may not agree with your verdict, I respect your verdict and respect you. I thank you for your time, and I have one more thing to ask. You have to make a decision now, and that decision it's going to mean the difference. If you sentence Megan Boswell to life in prison, she'll be released when she is probably 69 years old. It'll be 8. She's been in jail. You probably realize she has been in jail since she was 18 years old. She went to jail February the 25th of 2020, and she hasn't been released. So with that said, if you give her a life sentence, it would be 51 years. That's what I'm asking you to do. If you give her a life without sentence, she will never be released from prison. That's the difference. So it would be the difference between her being released at what I believe would be 69 to 70 years old, or never being released.
The jury wasn't out long. The district attorney had wanted a sentence of life without the possibility of parole, but the jury showed Megan Boswell some mercy and grace.
All right. Ms. Boswell, in count 1, the jury of your peers having set your punishment, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment. In count 2, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment.
There's a reason Crime Fix is one of the top-ranked shows on YouTube right now, just like there's a reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They're a firm with more than 1,000 attorneys, and that's because they win a lot. Morgan & Morgan has recovered more than $25 billion from more than 500,000 clients. In the last few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. In In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That was 40 times the insurer's $650,000 offer. Another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. Even if you think your case is not worth millions, why not start a claim and fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it truly so easy. You can start a claim from your phone in just 8 clicks. So if you're ever hurt, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/crimefix by clicking the link below or scanning that QR code that you see on your screen. Boswell was convicted earlier this year. For just 4 of the counts of her indictment, the judge had discretion to add consecutive sentences after the life in prison term because of the brutality of the crime. Prosecutors did not seek the death penalty in the case, so the maximum conviction for Boswell is life in prison. At the formal sentencing hearing, prosecutors presented witnesses to bolster their argument for an enhanced sentence on the remaining charges. One of the witnesses included former Sullivan County Sheriff's Deputy Jeff Cassidy.
Would you have found Evelyn if the defendant had told the truth on day one?
Objection, cause for speculation.
Sustained. Yeah, you need to rephrase it. It's too broad.
If you had known that Evelyn was dead on day one, would that have changed the way you conducted your investigation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Would all of these resources have been used?
No, ma'am.
Were you aware of community involvement during the time of this investigation, the 18 days of investigation?
Yeah, extremely. They really provided us a lot of additional resources that not criminal justice related, just like they brought us food to the office so we could eat and still work, and they all pulled together during that time and just showed tremendous outpouring of support for our entire agency. And across the nation, really, this was a national recognized case. So the people around here in the community, they started Evelyn's Army, and they provided food for us daily.
After the witnesses, Boswell had the opportunity to get on the stand where she insisted that she was innocent.
I would just like to say that the state of Tennessee treated me very unfair during this whole investigation, and had I had a fair trial and an impartial jury, I would have been acquitted of the murder charges. I would have never hurt my baby, and I did not kill Evelyn.
After Boswell spoke, Prosecutor William Harper asked the judge for the maximum sentence by arguing some of the enhancing factors in the case.
But the trust that Miss Boswell betrayed upon her daughter was just so callous. She chose herself repeatedly, time and time again, over her child. All deaths are horrible, but for a small child to die in the way that Evelyn died just shows such extreme callousness. And those photographs show you. I mean, she was discarded like a piece of common garbage. Detective Lieutenant Price testified to, it looks like the body has been compressed, pushed down in the trash can so we can fit more trash, more garbage on top of her child. But probably the most hurtful and severe part of this whole and painful part of this is the fact that all that occurred at the hands of the one person that she should have been able to rely upon and trust to protect her own mother. But Megan didn't do that. Megan repeatedly chose Megan. Megan chose her life. Megan chose living in the big house out by the lake. Megan chose going to the movies. She chose going to Blowing Rock, going to Gatlinburg, again and again and again, over her own daughter. The second finding this court has to make is that it was necessary that consecutive sentencing was necessary to protect the public from further crimes, and provided the court, as well as Mr. Scott, with the case of State v. Taylor, which was a case in which a small child had been beaten to death, and then the mother basically delayed in calling 911, which eventually resulted in the child dying because she didn't receive any medical attention. And the court in that case found that the dangerous offender classification was satisfied because the defendant had demonstrated extreme callousness towards the health and welfare of the victim, and the results were fatal. Well, Judge, really, it does not get any more callous than what the defendant did in this case. You know, she turned her back, she turned her life, she turned her trust away from her own child. Evelyn got in the way of the life Megan Boswell wanted to live, and so she eliminated that problem. It truly is not getting more callous than that. So the state would submit that both those factors are met, and that the court should impose consecutive sentencing.
Then it was time for Megan Boswell's attorney to speak on her behalf and to fight for her.
But I think in fairness and in deference to that jury, we have to give some respect to what determination they made. And they were aware of all the other charges. Obviously, they heard the guilt phase on those and convicted her of those. So I think that is important to consider that. She's eligible for probation on all the other charges. The court has to make a determination whether or not those sentences should be suspended or served. The court has to make a determination whether, if they are served, how they're served, consecutive or concurrent. As it relates to the dangerous offender who society has to be protected from, I think the case law is quite clear. Not every person convicted of first-degree murder and another felony is going to fall into that category. Normally, in a lot of the cases you see multiple victims, multiple acts. Here, all of those things kind of go together. And I guess the other thing we have to talk about is what counts merged together in this sentence. I would suggest, of course, that the murder counts merged together for one count. That the child abuse and child neglect counts should merge.
The judge took a moment to speak directly to Megan Boswell before sentencing her.
This defendant had absolutely no hesitation when she killed her daughter. And in hearing the proof during trial of how she continued to live her life, and from hearing the proof circumstantially as to why she might have done this deed, because this new boyfriend is the life that she wanted to grasp onto. It's like the state said, the house on the lake, a lifestyle that she wanted for herself. The fact that Evelyn was just in the way. And looking at all the video that we saw during the trial, this court never once saw remorse, never once saw empathy out of the defendant. So she is a dangerous offender. The circumstances surrounding the commission of this offense are absolutely aggravated. This baby couldn't care for herself. This baby had the only life this baby knew. The only way this baby could get through a day was through her mom. And Mr. Scott asked the question during his argument, which was the right question to ask. Is Megan Boswell, at 69 years of age, coming out of prison, a risk to society? And the only conclusion that I can come to, after hearing the proof in this case, seeing the evidence in this case, seeing how utterly unconcerned with the fact that she took the life of a 15-month-old child, her own child. The court has to answer that question, yes. That society does need to be protected from the evil that lurks in her heart.
Now let's hear specifics regarding the sentence breakdown by the judge.
The 25-year sentence for the merging counts of aggravated child abuse and neglect will be consecutive to the life sentence. The 6-year sentence for tampering with evidence and the 4-year sentence for false report will be concurrent with each other, but consecutive to the 25 years. And the 2-year sentences for the abuse of corpse in count 19 and count 20 will be concurrent with each other, but consecutive to the 6 years. So in counts 4 through 20, that'll be a 33-year sentence as a range 1 standard offender, consecutive to her life sentence. The court has considered probation. She's not eligible for probation on the Class 8 felonies. That 25 years has to be served by statute. The court has considered probation on the additional 8 years and finds that a grant of probation would depreciate the seriousness of this case, given the facts of this case, given the fact that she has shown no remorse, she has shown no empathy towards this child, her child, and probation in those counts will be denied.
Boswell's attorney, Gene Scott, plans to appeal the sentence, and he will also file a motion for a new trial after he gets a transcript from that trial. Until then, Boswell will remain in custody at the Deborah K. Johnson Rehabilitation Center in Nashville. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.